Hello and welcome to today's NBAA Thought Leadership Webinar, Predict, Prevent, Perform, the new era of maintenance intelligence in business aviation. Before we get started, I'd like to point out a few features of our webinar platform to help you make the most of your time with us today. First off, please know that this webinar is being recorded. All registered attendees will receive a link to the session within 24 hours of its conclusion. Throughout the webinar, we invite you to submit questions for our panelists using the Q&A tab on your screen. Please note that Q&A is visible to all attendees. If you see a question you like, be sure to use the thumbs up icon to push the question to the top of the list. Our speakers will respond to your questions as time allows. Public chat is also open. Be on the lookout for notes from your peers as you enjoy today's episode. Throughout the session, you will also see polling questions appear on your screen. We encourage you to engage with our speakers by participating in these polls. Finally, we would like to take a moment to thank our sponsor for today's webinar, Veryon. And with that, I'd like to introduce our moderator for today's discussion, Kyle Sale, Senior Account Executive at Veryon. Kyle, over to you.
Hello, and welcome to Predict, Prevent, Perform, the new era of maintenance intelligence in business aviation. Thank you so much for that warm welcome, NBAA. Veryon's very excited to be here. As mentioned, I'm Kyle from Veryon. I'll be moderating today's conversation. A little background on me. After graduating from Embry-Riddle, I've spent the last 12 years working across business and commercial aviation for jets, turboprops, and helicopters. Now, during my short time in the industry, I've been lucky enough to see firsthand how advanced technology and enhanced data capture is really changing our industry. And I'm really excited to have this conversation because today's industry's challenges are what's pushing operators to evolve their maintenance strategies, whether that's due to technician shortages, increasing compliance complexity, or the growing need to predict failures before they ground your fleet, rather than waiting to scramble when we all hear that word AOG. Now, to bring this to life and add our audience voice to today's discussion, we will be sharing exclusive insights from our 2025 Aviation Maintenance Benchmark Report. Now, this report is based on input from over 800 professionals just like you. Now, we're also making the full benchmark report available as a bonus resource, so don't worry. You're going to get the link to download your copy before we close out today. Now, with that, let's jump right in. Now, the reason I said my short time in the industry is because, you know, when we get to work with wonderful panelists, such as our panelist today, who brings decades of experience to the field, you know, it makes me feel like, 12 years? Oh, it's just a drop in the bucket for Reeves Crone. Very excited to work with you. He's our director of maintenance at Fly True. He's been in maintenance his whole life, you know, right out of the military. He was with the Air Force. Thank you for your service, sir. Spent 35 years with Life Flight. We're extremely excited to have you here today with us, Reeves. Would you go ahead, sir, and just give us a quick introduction?
Let me help you out. Reeves Worrell. I retired from Life Flight after 35 years, or close to it, and now I consult on the side because this industry has a way of pulling you back in. So kind of the short story of me.
Absolutely, it does. Well, we need you. I think that's something that we're seeing every single day, is that we have to rely on the experience. I got to say that, sir, you must have forgotten more than a lot of us know, even today in the industry, and especially in maintenance. So it's wonderful to have you here today. So thank you so much for joining us. And Reeves Worrell, I apologize for that correction there. Thank you so much, Reeves.
You're welcome, and thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Well, we're going to jump right in. We want to thank all of our audience for joining today. So thank you so much for being here. So we kind of want to jump in for the webinar. We're going to jump into digital transformation and software pain points. Okay, so this is kind of something that we wanted to identify quickly as we launch this segment. As you guys can see up on the screen here, 72% of operators are saying that adopting maintenance software still comes with a lot of pain. All right. Now, a lot of times we sit around and we say, what do you mean? We're using technology, right? We've got smartphones, but joking aside, it's a clear need for efficiency, but there's still problems with it. Now, I will say that the resounding feedback that we are hearing lately is that the industry is starting to realize that the cost of doing nothing is greater than embracing the future. There are those that are just testing the waters, moving from spreadsheets to software, all the way up to those that are expanding on recent tools and conducting a full overhaul of their digital tech stack to realize the full power of the tools that are available on the market today. And boy, are they powerful from what we're seeing in the market. Now, but like any major metamorphosis, this transformation comes with a little pain, such as initial software implementation costs while we wait for those tools to be ready to use, getting them into the budget, clunky user experiences that can make change management difficult. Change management is one of the biggest issues we see when it comes to technology. And the integration headaches that come from trying to integrate state-of-the-art technology that's trying to interface with, well, let's face it, guys, what at this point feels like very archaic old systems. So to kick off this meeting, we wanted to address the elephant in the room right away and hear from our real operators what their experience has been during this digital transformation era. And that's where we're going to go, Reeves. I appreciate you for being here. Now for our audience, we still want to hear from you. So please engage with us as we continue by clicking in and adding your voice to those polls that you're going to be see coming across your screen. So first up, Reeves, what I want to kind of, jump into this and just kind of see what's one of the biggest roadblocks you've seen when operators are trying to go digital?
The one thing I see time and time again is that there's a resistance to change, in that people are very comfortable with what they've been doing, and that change is not readily accepted. And I think part of that may be bandwidth. They just don't want to take on that initial effort in the beginning because they just don't understand the benefits that are waiting for them if they get there.
Absolutely. So that's a great point you bring up, right? It's sometimes we all fall into that, wait, if it's broke, don't fix it mentality. But what we're kind of seeing and what the benchmark report kind of confirmed for us is that's not cutting it anymore. You're seeing a lot of folks in the leadership teams that are coming in for these companies. We've got to make that jump, and as you mentioned, when you do, you're starting to see real benefits. Great feedback. So I guess what's one thing that you wish maintenance software providers would finally get right?
I think on that one, the people training maintenance technicians really need to come from that background because they speak that language and they see it from that point of view. And I think that would be super helpful in integrating these digital systems.
Absolutely, Reeves. And you know what? Our audience is kind of aligning with exactly what you're saying, because we've got, user experience and training burden was, over almost 30% of the audience said that this is kind of one of the issues of getting people to use it, working with the software. We also saw in our poll, guys, and thank you so much for answering these, but integration with existing systems was way up on the list there, tying with user experience and training, right? Followed by leadership buy-in, cost of implementation. So I think everybody's on the same page. And that kind of leads me to a little bit about this, change management, right? We always see it's so hard to get people to adopt, these, and that's something that we're kind of talking about. So can you give me an example of where you might have been, working with your team and, any new process, Reeves, came out, right? So it was like, hey, we're doing it this way, even if it's a manual process. We're doing it this way. Now we're going to start doing it this way. Was there kind of a little bit of dissent among the ranks, or did you have a couple of guys you had to push overboard? Can you give us an example, sir?
I think there's always a little bit of resistance in the ranks, depending on the size of an organization. When we went through that process, the one thing that we did was we had people in place that would field those phone calls. EMS is 24/7. People had to be available to help these people through their software issues or their questions. And then in doing that, it's training people as they come up with the question on how to utilize the system. And then they were off and running. and it's been very successful. But I think the key part of that was putting people in place that would help them through that initial aspect of it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Kind of almost like a super user, somebody that's really, what we would call on the technology side, a super user, someone that is, hey, we're trying to implement a new process, whatever that may be, from analog all the way to digital. But we really need to get adoption. And so let's have somebody kind of carry them through that so that we see it. This is excellent feedback, and I appreciate it being candid. Guys, and for our audience, keep dropping those in. We love seeing those chats. We aren't here to play nice in the sandbox about this, right? We're here to get the gloves off, roll up our sleeves, and tackle the work that needs to be done to enhance the digital experience for every stakeholder in the industry. And this isn't just for, the leadership reading the dashboards, and trying to, comb the analytics, all the way down to the maintenance technicians that are turning the wrenches, doing the QA sign-offs, and getting those aircraft RTS as fast as possible. Now, you did mention this, and I that you said, those that have embraced it, when we started using something that was easier, things got easier. And that's a big piece of it. A stat worth calling out is that 61% of operators say mobile access is now essential. The ability to dial up your aircraft on your phone or tablet is quite literally changing how we work. Documenting non-routines on the fly, pun intended, faster responses from maintenance control, quicker dispatch of text to find a solution, increased awareness for procurement so that if it's not on the shelf, we can activate those suppliers faster than ever before, and the list goes on and on and on. But it really comes down to the ability to identify the issues quickly, automate processes to make the lives of our teams easier, and enable those teams to work smarter to mitigate maintenance risk, increase availability, and get those birds back in the air where they belong. All right, I think this one hits home for a lot of our audience and the operators out there, is the technician shortage, tackling this technician shortage. I think this is one of the loudest signals that we've seen inside the benchmark report. 62% of operators say the technician shortage is a critical threat to their operations. And when you combine that with a lot of very experienced folks such as yourself, Reeves, it's no surprise, maybe, kind of moving on to other things, as we continue to move. You've over 40 years in the industry. Now where's those young techs coming in, those, greenhorns that we need to train up and give them the tools they need to succeed. Now, for our audience, we do want a pulse check from you guys. So please make sure we continue to engage in those polls. Now, wonderful. And I see we've got some good questions coming in. So great. This is wonderful. So as the responses come in, Reeves, I want to keep our conversation going. When you're short on staff, what's one of the first tasks or processes that you might lean on to handle, and whether that's technology or a new process that you may have come up with that you were working on? But when two techs called out today, kind of how are we going to make sure we're still able to tackle the workload?
That one's kind of complicated. I think the best answer to that is that if you have a system that saves your technicians time, i.e. makes them successful in their processes, then they're able to complete things quicker and more efficiently, but still do them every bit as well. So that's where the technology comes in, is it makes them or enables them to be more efficient at completing that whole process of logbook entries, paperwork, and things that just suck time out of your normal day.
Absolutely. Those manual processes continuing to suck time out of your day, sometimes double work. I've got to go back and, none of this is automated. Let me work on it. I think that's, and that's something to be said. And across, for Lifelight, across EMS operations, I mean, while all missions are important, these life-saving operations require immediate readiness, right? That's no surprise. So now, how did you see your kind of operators adapt And I think we've mentioned some of them, right? Like automating some processes, cross training. You mentioned having somebody kind of carry them through that, or even, we're seeing also some of these intelligence tools that ease staff workloads. Can you give an example maybe of when a cross training really worked, or you noticed that, operators started to adapt once they saw how it was able to make their lives easier and reduce their workload?
I think really what happens is you eliminate those old paper layers of redundant work. If a parts person puts in the correct total time on a part, then a mechanic shouldn't have to research that because the computer system carries that over. And then if that's done correctly, it eliminates errors. If you eliminate errors, then your records people aren't so pushed. Everyone basically has more time to do the important things versus chasing all the things that got missed in those older processes.
Absolutely. No, I mean, this is excellent feedback. We agree that technology is helping operators reduce the learning curve for the rookies coming out of school. I think that's a reality. When we start to think about how we're going to be able to scale these, right, we can only scale through using the tools that are available to us, and technology is a great way to scale, especially when those teams are spread thin. What's incredibly exciting, though, is that not only are we seeing products with user interfaces that are, let's face it, it's easy to pick up as Candy Crush on your phone. But we're also now seeing, we kind of want to make sure we're mentioning this, the AI revolution. We're getting some great questions in, and so I'm going to address that in just a moment. Folks out there in the audience, for everyone out there, because I've noticed an AI vendor even come in and kind of have a question here. We want you to know that there's tools out there that are available right now that with Gen AI allow you to talk to your fleet. Then there's agentic AI, agents that are enable your fleet to talk to you. So this is kind of where this is going, and is imagine if your youngest techs could walk in and pick up their tablet and simply ask, based on mission schedule, what are the most critical AOGs and items approaching tolerance I should focus on today? And it would instantly read out the tails that must be returned to service first. This isn't science fiction, guys. It's here and it's available right now. We've got a great question here, and so I kind of want to go to the audience, just talking about data privacy, cybersecurity restrictions. They end up kind of making it extremely difficult for aviation companies, right, as we have regulatory compliance, to onboard any vendors that are providing software services, app usage, especially AI. Where is my data going? I think this is something that everyone is starting to recognize, and I'll kind of just make a note. There's a lot of different things that you can do right now. So I think security safety is always at the top of our list, but security and safety are extremely important. So for the security of your data, there's lots of things that you can do, such as you can deploy on-prem, right, or on-premises, so that you can make sure that data stays within your four walls. Something that we're seeing right now is there's companies out there, the DoD, where very, safety and compliance and top secret clearances are a must. They're adopting certain, AI technologies. And the way they're able to do that is by ensuring that it doesn't leave their four walls. So these are great questions, guys. Keep them coming. We really appreciate it. And with that, we'll keep going. Okay, so next up, we've got compliance and aging fleets. So let's talk about this, guys, right? The complexity of maintaining compliance with aging fleets. Now, our research shows in the benchmark report that 78%, which is a big statistic, guys, of operators are struggling with compliance complexity. And a lot of this is because they're still stuck with manual processes, outdated documentation, illegible logbook entries. Reeves, you were just mentioned, we're chasing paper. Aircraft also aircraft that may have spent time in other countries, right? Entries that are in different languages, matching up status report data to paper logbook sign-offs, and more and more and more. So audience, we're coming at you with another poll. Reeves, in your day-to-day, what kind of headaches have manual compliance processes caused you? And please, sir, open forum here, if you can give us an example of, anything you saw.
First problem is the delay from the time that the work's completed to when the record is updated. So if the work was completed, the logbook entry was made, if at the end of the month, when most operators compile these updates, if there was a mistake made or a process that was missed, you've already flown that aircraft. That's a bit of a problem. You can't get that back. So
absolutely,
the delay in information, especially to managers and people who are working at home base, so to speak, is pretty big. That's eliminated with the digital process. Next part of it is the end of month. The amount of time people spend on an end of month report, checking the math, looking at 30 days worth of logbook entries. You hit somebody with that much information, expect them to compile that in a short period of time, you're actually opening up the potential for errors. If you do it on an ongoing basis, if you have instant access to information, it's very easy to track an entire fleet. It doesn't take a lot of time out of every day. If you wait till the end of the month, it's just miserable.
Absolutely. And I think in that, my very next question was kind of around that, keeping the fleet compliant without overwhelming the team. And just like you said, if it starts to pile up, and if you're waiting until the very end of the month, now, we're even seeing human factors come into play, right? We're starting to, really burden the team because it's got to get done. And I really love the example that you said. If you miss something or a sign off wasn't done correctly, and then that aircraft flew, well, now we've got to go back. We've got to audit that, right? There could be issues, fines, the FAA, could come in, right? We want to make sure, everybody wants to stay compliant. Everybody wants to have a safe operation. Everybody wants to secure their data. Everybody wants to make sure it's all buttoned up and looks neat and those logs are in order. And this all just goes back to how can we do this? And it's with, enhancing our operations with these digital tools and the technology that's available. These are great. Guys, I want to go back because we love that you're engaging with us on our polls. So Reeves, some of these for technicians, we've got 45% of our respondents said that recruiting qualified technicians is one of our major pain points. So that's huge right there, right? Reeves, it's no mystery that you're who people are looking for, right? You've got so much experience that almost the pulse of that aircraft when you walk up to it, and it's kind of how do we translate that to our younger generation, and so some of it, guys, for those listening, it's all about how can we, not only recruit proper talent, but give them the training materials that they need, and then add in some of the technology that's going to make their job or make that learning curve go down a little bit. So thank you so much for that poll. We'll keep them coming. We're waiting for the next one on compliance and aging fleets. So some of the things for aging fleets, can you give us an example of an older bird that may have had some logbook discrepancies, or, one I'll give was, I was working on a project. The aircraft was coming from China. The logbooks were in a different language. There was just, some different things that the team had to go in. They ended up digitizing the logs, working with the teams, making sure the signups, everything lined up. Reeves, can you give us some examples of kind of what you've run into during your career on working with maturing aircraft?
Really the language barrier nowadays with what all the different programs can do, they translate fairly well. And so you can really pick through that. It just takes a minute with a computer to work through it. But as far as aging fleet, really once you get that fleet's or that aircraft's information into a solid database, it's just a matter of tracking. So the idea there is you want to improve your efficiency. What we did at LifeFlight is we went full paperless. Every mechanic has a laptop on their toolbox, or had when I left. We didn't use paper. They had instant information at their fingertips all the time, which just expedited their process. But that in turn made it easy to monitor logbook entries and sign-offs and double check everything through each step of the process without it consuming a lot of man hours. I did it by myself for a long time on a fleet of 12 or 13. That was my morning coffee, and it wasn't that hard to do. But that was all because of the tools that were available, and I could do it from my home office. I mean, I was looking at sign-offs at the other end of the state or in different states with instant knowledge of what was going on and able to fix a problem or make some phone calls and correct a problem if I identified it at that time.
Absolutely amazing. And you know, to be able to monitor your fleet from various bases from your home office, it's absolutely pretty incredible. You know, I want to touch on a couple of the things that you noted. We went full paperless. We digitized our flight logs. And we're complying, right? When we do digital sign-offs, right? We're being in compliance with, I think, what is that, AC 120-78A, right? Electronic signatures. We can get our technicians those pins so that they can make those sign-offs. All of that is extremely powerful because, to your point, Reeves, once it's uploaded, now you've got all your tracking, and now you're just tracking the scheduled, in any non-routines that might pop up. You're able to manage that fleet. You're also able to contact those technicians at different bases. So you mentioned having the aircraft at another base, where you're able to see what's going on in real time based on your digital fleet data. Can you expand on that a little bit, on how, maybe an example of how, a squawk came up, non-routine, it was at this base. I was able to move, get material from here. Would you enlighten us with a story on that?
Oh, yeah, just shoot that one at me out of the dark. Come on, buddy.
That's a good one. I think this is a great one, and a conversation of, so, I can even start just in an example where, I was working previously in kind of working on a supply chain role, and making sure that AOG logistics, the aircraft was down. They needed to get the part there as fast as possible. So let me give an example first, Reeves. Of course, I don't want to shoot you out of the dark on these, but these are just kind of what I'm thinking about, because I just know that you've got probably thousands of these examples, right? So of course, I know picking the best one is the hard part. So an example I saw was, we were tracking where a critical component was going. Right now, this is a coordination between the manufacturer, the operator, and I'm even going to talk about a third-party supplier that came into the mix. The ground crew. Are we going to use one of your aircraft to actually move this piece? The airlines. Can we get it on a commercial flight? Can we fly it in the belly? Do we need to put it, hand carry it? What do we need to do to get it there? This piece started moving. Everybody's watching it, right? All eyes are on it. We're trying to gather updates, so the team's kind of working on it. It was the digital tools that really allowed us to see that this actually failed to load on an aircraft, the original part. It was going to set it back. We couldn't even, the operator was kind of looking at other ways that they could do it. Whether, do I drive it? Is that going to get it there fast enough? Maybe I position a plane. Can I even position one in that location fast enough? What ended up happening, we were able to task a third-party supplier. So working with, through this whole project and what was going on, this issue that came up, we were able to task duplicate material from a completely another supplier to get it to the location fast. So we actually had two of the same parts heading to that location. And the one that was originally booked to get there did not make it until the next day. That aircraft would have been grounded. Because we were able to see exactly where it was, what the issue was, engage and activate another supplier, we were able to get duplicate material there, and that saved the day. They actually completed that mission at 8 a.m. the next morning. That's just one example. Those are kind of the ones I'm throwing out there, because it all goes back to these digital tools without the ability to have some of that real-time visibility into your fleet, we would still be light years behind where we are today. And the tools that are coming out now are putting us light years ahead of where we are even now. So it's just very, very exciting. So thank you so much. I think I've got another question. And Reeves, this is, interrupt me if anything comes in, or you'd like to note something, sir. Go ahead, sir.
One of the biggest benefits I've seen is with our larger jet. When that went out to a vendor for maintenance, the amount of paperwork that had to travel with it was unbelievable. And if that paperwork was ever lost or compromised, I'm not sure how you would have got that record back. But by making that digital, it doesn't matter what country that aircraft's in. If it has a maintenance issue and someone needs a wiring diagram for an ST seat interior or some specific system that's outside of the maintenance manual, that is always available. So you have wiring diagrams, installation manuals, specific information to that aircraft that is basically traveling with it on an iPad in the pilot's hand, because he can log in and collect that information, or you can steer your maintenance people to it from wherever with just a read-only login. And we use that a lot in that process.
Excellent example, right? No more digging up a bin, right, and finding that massive binder to find the page that you need to get to the technician, so you can execute that or work on that STC. Great point, exactly. I love the way you said that. Traveling on the aircraft with the pilot in the iPad, it's just incredible. Absolutely excellent one. We've also see some questions coming in. So I'm going to pull over here and kind of take a look. So thank you guys. Keep engaging with us. We've also got our poll has come in. For poll 3, I'm going to come back over here just to make sure I note that, remind us of the question. What's your top compliance headache today? And what came back was, it was choice C, managing records across systems. And a close runner-up was keeping documentation up to date. And so, to Reeves' point, this is all what we're seeing, is that the digital change and going paperless and not having to have that, dirty fingerprint on the logbook, getting those sign-offs digitally, having the information there so you're not having to, scramble for paper logs. Excellent, guys. Thank you so much. So we're going to keep it rolling. I'm going to come down here. Thank you guys so much. And we will, I think we can head on into our next slide. But, the common theme that we're kind of getting is keeping our teams informed and equipped with tools that help manage the fleet smarter, not harder. It's reducing audit findings. It's making it easier to maintain compliance without the headaches of manual processes, and keeping those perfectly capable, maturing aircraft operational in the global fleet. Wouldn't you agree, Reeves?
Oh, yeah. I think the biggest piece here is that what's going to have to happen in the industry is through all these tools, you have to reduce the dependence on tribal knowledge. So what walks out the door with the gray-haired guy, if you've taken good notes and put that into your database, that information is readily available to any user moving forward. It's a way to capture the insider tricks to a particular maintenance function or something. We used it all the time. Populated those notes with specific information that would help people from not making the mistakes that we made as we learned it. And so that's what that does, and that's how you're going to help this next generation succeed, is by taking away that tribal knowledge aspect of it.
100%. And really, yes, giving that tribal knowledge to the next group coming up. A lot of those, gosh, that's such a great point, sir, in that, as I mentioned, some of our greatest technicians, right, have forgotten more than some of our young guys are learning right now. They've just known so much. So when you're in there and you're kind of start working on that piece, you're like, oh, this is exactly what we need to do. And they're like, oh, I just wouldn't have thought of that. And it's like, oh, it's because I've done it 55 times over the last, X amount of time. So by documenting that, by uploading it into the system, and I think that's kind of heading us. It's a great segue, sir, because it kind of heads us into the kind of future transformations we're seeing. If some of that information was already in the systems that you're using today, then you'd be able to query that, right? You'd be able to find your information. Before we kind of jump into this, and we're going to talk about predictive maintenance, data-driven decisions, I think this all goes together. But that's also another piece is we put that information into the system. Well, how often do folks in the audience, how often do you guys even see that, navigating your SharePoint is difficult. Finding that document inside your own system sometimes is difficult. And I think that's where we're also going to see that AI help, is because you're going to be able to use the Gen AI to kind of query your data and say, hey, what was the last failure? The last time a system like this on this make model of aircraft failed, what was the fix that we applied? And you're going to have access to that data immediately. And that's from their iPad on the hangar floor. So that's very, very exciting. Now, as we go to dive into this next topic, I want you to think about maintenance intelligence. For our audience, I want you to think about maintenance intelligence the same way you think about business intelligence, right? It's not just about capturing data, but it's also about using it to make smarter, faster decisions. Right? We need to use that data that we're getting. Now, predictive maintenance is by definition all about using real-time data collection and advanced analytics to not only drive efficiency and performance, but also to anticipate non-routines or unscheduled events before they disrupt operations. Now, this goes even further than large fleets, and we're going to talk about this because I think this is kind of what we've been doing to kind of identify it and using tribal knowledge, Reeves, as you pointed out. But this goes beyond now large fleets reviewing their own MTBR data, right, or their mean time between removal data. I.e. the maintenance manual says the life limit's 2,500 cycles, but operational history shows average failures occurring at 2,100. So based on that operational knowledge, I'm going to jump in there and work to remove that piece a little bit ahead of time, based on my flight schedule and all of the other parameters that I'm putting into why am I going to pull this early, including budget constrictions, et cetera. But there are other tools out there, right, such as sensor data, right? We're seeing health usage monitoring. And really, not only just for the latest and greatest engines and airframes that are coming out, but you can enact products on some of our maturing fleets. Operators using sensors to identify vibrational anomalies that pinpoint vulnerabilities before failures occur. There's defect analysis tools that monitor the frequency of recurring non-routines by scrubbing the logbooks and utilizing AI to provide valuable fix effectiveness data for the engineers to enhance fleet performance by reducing the impact of those chronic defects. And there are more and more. But currently, this shift to predictive maintenance, it's about more than just picking a technology off the shelf. It's really a cultural shift in how teams have operated in the past. And that's what we're here to unpack a little bit in this segment. And we've got kind of a stat up there for you guys. It says 17% of operators have, we say fully integrated AI of a predictive maintenance tool. I think that's relative. We could dissect that a bit. But 17% of operators have integrated AI or a predictive maintenance tool. Right? We look at large commercial fleets, right? We've got entire reliability teams. We look at, large business fleets, monitoring that reliability and those recurring defects or those unscheduled squawks, focusing on those non-routines. How many times has this aircraft had an issue? Let's work on to identify what it is and dial it back. And so, when we say 17%, has seen this here, but I want to make a note, those that have implemented some of these tools are seeing up to 30% fewer unscheduled maintenance events. Now that's a big deal, guys, right? I mean, if I think all of us, right, would raise our hand and say, oh my goodness, I'd love to improve operations by 30%. But having those data points, to pinpoint problems before they occur and then using our business intelligence to make good decisions on what to do, whether we're going to elect to perform maintenance early or let that part ride to its life limit, et cetera. So let's get into our audiences on this. We've got a poll coming at you guys. So please, jump in and answer that. Now, while they're submitting those responses, Reeves, I want to talk about this to you, right? From operators shifting from a reactive maintenance to a more predictive approach. Can you tell us, sir, kind of an example of what you were doing in your career to kind of predict items as they would come up, and what were you doing, whether manual process or as you moved into the future? But what did that look like for you, sir, over your long tenured career?
Really, towards the last part of my time spent, there were enough reports available through Veryon that I could look at utilizations, parts consumption, discrepancies that were coming through. And really, it was, instead of artificial intelligence, it was old guy intelligence. Just by identifying when things were happening too often. Starters on a particular aircraft, if they failed prematurely, that identified the trend and put the question as to why are we failing this when the rest of the fleet is not. So that's where the predictive comes in. Once we identified some of those problems, it did help us fix that issue. And then there's also the fact that if a discrepancy is repeating multiple times, different technicians are signing it off by doing the same thing over and over again, you can identify that the problem is not being fixed. And you don't want to ground an aircraft away from base for all those reasons. That's where it really benefited us, was we were able to identify some of those issues and move that troubleshooting forward or that operational change forward. So it saved us time and money.
Excellent point. Excellent point. And we're extremely happy to hear that as well. But you really bring up a great point of by being able to see what we were doing, right, in real time. Then if I have that exact same issue at another base, but my technicians just spent hours troubleshooting that over here, and that fix didn't work, right? I'm definitely not doing myself a favor by enacting the exact same fix at another base, right? So being able to see what I did here, that first fix didn't work, right? Oh, that it occurred again. I'm going to apply this fix. Oh, wait, that fixed it. So that final fix at this location now becomes the first fix applied at my other base. Am I kind of hearing that correct, sir?
In a sense that you don't want to keep doing what you said, the same thing over and over again, or you don't want to waste the man hours repeating that troubleshooting that's already been done. So once you identify that, then through a little bit of collaboration with people, you can move it forward to next step in the process instead of starting at zero again. And that's just saving time, which in turn saves money.
Absolutely, that's right, and it saves money, increases aircraft availability, right, and we're not missing missions. Now, in your time, as we kind of mentioned this, your team was reviewing those kind of MTBR data, or what was kind of coming off when we saw things occur. Can you enlighten me on that a little bit?
It was actually pretty easy to do. Generate the report from the database. Comes up as an Excel report, and then with a little bit of fancy filtering, you're able to really start identifying keywords or part numbers or whatever you were using to start seeing what kind of trend or consumption rate you had as far as hours between maintenance intervals, time between overhaul. Once you could identify it, then putting that fix in place was the easiest part of it. It was alerting ourselves that we had a problem that we needed to take a harder look at. That was Absolutely. The key, was the awareness.
Absolutely. No. Thank you. The awareness. I love that piece of it. And that's what this is all about. The awareness. So the example I gave, by being aware of what was going on, we were able to, either take other action or go the route we needed to make sure we, increased uptime and got those aircraft back in the air. We've got the back in from our poll. So this is kind of painting the picture of what we're here today to talk about. So where is your operation today on predictive maintenance? 51% of our operators said it's on our radar, but we've not started yet. So really, really, I think that right there just paints a big picture of kind of there's tools out there. We need to take a look at them, right? It gets difficult because you're looking at, I've got I've got all these other fires that I'm working on. But as you've kind of pointed out, Reeves, the operational efficiency and the time and the money saved and increased aircraft availability that came from making a change really has really helped. So with that, guys, I'm sorry, Reeves, go ahead.
No, that's it. I'm good.
Wonderful. So yes. Thank you guys so much. I think now we're going to move into our key takeaways. We want to kind of, pull it up in here, guys. Thank you so much, Reeves. These have been incredible insights today. We've got some key takeaways. We're also going to open it up to a little bit of audience Q&A, and we'll answer those. We've got just about 14 minutes left, so I think we're tracking right on time. Thank you so much for joining us today. One, predictive maintenance reduces reduces recurring defects by up to 30%, right? So when we say reduces unscheduled events, right? We see those unscheduled events happening, but by being able to use predictive maintenance, we're seeing those recurring defects get reduced by up to 30%, which is, again, reducing unscheduled events that are happening because we're getting that first fix as the final fix. We're seeing AI tools are helping teams do more with fewer hands, easing the technician crunch. And integrated mobile-friendly platforms are essential. I think essential is the key word there for compliance, data conformity, and operational efficiency. So thank you guys so much. We want to open it up to our audience for Q&A. So please post your questions in the chat. I'm actually kind of running through them. We really appreciate the audience participation today. There's a lot of great stuff in here. If we don't get to your question, don't worry. We'll look to follow up with you guys. Please follow up with us. Our contact information will be available. But thank you so much for your time today. Okay. So I'm just kind of combing through the questions here for just a moment. This is Reeves, and we really appreciate you today, sir, as being our expert with 40 years experience. From your perspective, what would you say has changed the most in maintenance over the past 5 to 10 years? Is it the adoption of these tools?
Well, it's the tools and the fact that now a lot of these tools are required because now you're troubleshooting black boxes and complicated logic versus manual mechanical systems or something where you could look at the moving parts. Now you have to use technology to help you troubleshoot. That's the biggest change I've seen.
Thank you. Excellent feedback. And I love this question. I think this leads kind of right into it. How can we justify tech investment in maintenance to leadership that's focused on short-term costs? When you're sitting there as the director of maintenance and you're saying, guys, it's a marathon, not a sprint, right? We want to make the fleet as efficient as it can be. And this is, over the next couple of years, this is my 1-year plan. This is my 3-year plan. This is my 5-year plan. How are you seeing that, what would be the best way we're justifying some of those investments to leadership?
I think you have to look at your ability to expand or grow your operation, either through more complex aircraft or number of aircraft. If you don't have those technicians with some good background in place, you can grow, but it's not going to go well. It's going to be a painful growth, and probably you're going to end up wishing you had invested into those people prior to that moment. So that would be the best message I can give you is do you invest now for the future, or do you sacrifice the future for the cost savings today? That's usually what happens.
100%. Well, which kind of goes into, and we've got another one from the audience here. If we could wave a magic wand, what would make recruiting or retaining techs easier right now?
Oh, I think that's pretty easy. We're all the same. We can be bought. But competing with other industries, other trades. The construction trades are starting to really ramp up. There's a lot of competition there. And you're competing with the fact that not everyone is interested in a hands-on technical type of a career. Pay is a big deal in that. Everyone's looking at what their best future is.
Absolutely. I think I love that you kind of noted that about, you're competing against these other suppliers and other firms, right? You're competing against the other operators. You're competing against other schools. What kind of makes you stand out? And I think one of them is always, right? We need a living wage, right? Absolutely. And I think two would be, what are you guys, what is your firm doing that kind of gets these younger technicians excited? When they come in, are they doing paper logbook sign off still? Do your technicians have iPads on the floor? Are they still running back to their laptops? Or do they have laptops, right? Or do they have to go back into a terminal and do all of their paperwork at once later in the day? Or as you mentioned, it starts to pile up and pile up and pile up. So I think those are definitely good points on what might make recruiting and retaining those techs easier right now. Be attractive, right? And I think technology is a great way for that. To get those technicians excited about coming to work. It's such a wonderful. I'm so thankful myself, just in getting into aviation. When I got my scholarship to Embry-Riddle, I was extremely excited. I got to go learn. I ended up on the business aviation, commercial aviation side. Ended up working in business development. This has led to a career in, technology, bringing new technology to market, being a part of cutting edge firms that are doing some of these amazing things. You were a director of maintenance. You were doing maintenance for 40 years. We've got pilots, right? We've got, everything from HR to, compliance to SMS to everything. There's just such an amazing career out here. But again, it all comes down to be attractive so we can get the best talent over to our firm. I think that's wonderful. So, guys, thank you so much. I'm kind of combing through. If there's one last question that we'd like to ask, I'm looking for it. I'm kind of combing through these. I think we've really summed it up, guys. I think a lot of these questions are great. I think they've touched on a lot of the points that we've come back to. One of these, this last one I'll call out, says, in your experience, what makes the difference between a smooth software rollout and one that stalls out? And Reeves, I got to say, I feel like you answered it earlier in that you said having someone help you through it. Whether it's on-site training, training a super user, kind of carrying you through. You don't just want to throw a new tech at somebody. If you know how to use it and you think it's the latest and greatest thing in the world, you need to put yourself in the technician's shoes who's never seen it before. And so what's going to get them excited about that software rollout? And really, it's going to be a human at the wheel helping them learn the ins and outs of it and show them how it's really going to make their lives easier. Reeves, would you agree with that, sir?
Absolutely. I think once people see the advantages, they immediately recognize that it's just another tool in the inventory that makes their life easier. And that's what it is it's a tool. Every mechanic in the world will tell you, give me the right tools, I can do the job. That's just how it works. This is one of those tools. And once they see those benefits, they tend to really start using it well. And keep in mind, the younger generation is so technically savvy compared to people my age. I learn more from the young guys than I'm ever going to teach them as far as a computer and an iPhone and everything else. So it's pretty natural for them to pick it up and run with it.
Absolutely. No, thank you. I greatly appreciate that insight. And it's the partnership between the tribal knowledge, that's really going to keep these aircraft going. And then our young techs that are going to be able to bridge that gap and really work together, to bring technology and the industry knowledge together. So thank you guys so much. I greatly appreciate it. Guys, as we come up to our close, we want you to know we have that bonus for you. We didn't forget about it. So the full 2025 Aviation Maintenance Benchmark Report is here. You can scan the QR code on your screen or grab the link that we're dropping in the chat. Guys, this is packed with data and trends that we didn't even have time to cover today, right? It's an easy read. They've done a great job of putting this together, with visual statistics and the data that you're looking for as you're looking to make a decision on where you go or what's happening in the market today. And a big shout out to NBAA. Thank you so much for having us. We greatly appreciate it. Folks out there, if you'd love to talk with Veryon, whether that's exploring predictive maintenance, compliance automation, digital transformation solutions, embedding AI, or taking a look at the tools that we have for you, we'd love to hear from you. So thank you so much. We greatly appreciate it. Thank you again to Reeves and to all of you for joining us. We hope you're leaving with actionable insights to strengthen your maintenance strategy and press forward into the future. Thank you so much, everyone.